are two good reasons for you to learn about the Greco-Roman world. One is to understand the epistles of Paul. He wrote many of them to Greco-Roman cities like Ephesus or Rome or Philippi. And to get an understanding of their thought world will help us understand how the earliest Christians were interacting with the culture that surrounds them and how they were defying cultural norms as well. And then the second reason is to understand subsequent church history development. Imagine the scenario, you're a 2nd century, so you're living about 100 years after Christ, say the year 130 person, and you are hearing the story of Jesus for the first time from a Christian, and you're coming from just like an urban context, standard Greco-Roman assumptions about who the gods are, Apollo and Demeter and Zeus and all these different gods, and you have all these stories in your head. Now you're going to hear the story of Jesus, and guess what? If you have those Greco-Roman assumptions about who the gods are and what they do, that's going to color how you hear the story of Jesus to such a degree that it could very well distort the story of Jesus, and you could come away concluding that Jesus is a god like these other gods. And I believe that this is one of the missing links between the Christology we find in the New Testament and what ends up developing in the 4th century with the Trinity. And I think it's an important link, and many of us are not talking about it, but I think it is very much something that had an impact. Yeah, I think it's so important to understand the culture of the people of the time and their beliefs, because it helps us to understand incidents like in the book of Acts when Paul's shipwrecked and he's sitting by a fire and a snake comes out and bites him, and all the natives conclude, oh, he must be cursed by the gods because he survived the shipwreck, but then he got bitten by a poisonous snake. But then when they noticed that Paul didn't die, they concluded instead that he must be a god because he survived the poisonous snake bite. And we look at this and we think, oh, those silly, superstitious people on that island, how could they ever believe that? But I don't think they were silly or superstitious. I don't think they were crazy. I think they were wrong about Paul, but they were incorporating their experiences within the Greco-Roman mindset, their own religious background, and they were making sense of it. And so studying the Greco-Roman culture and religions will help us to understand incidents like that in the book of Acts. Scholars talk about the parting of the ways, and there's a lot of scholarly debate on it, but the most classic treatment by James Dunn talks about how Jewish Christians separated from the rest of Judaism, and also Jewish Christians has become to see separate from the rest of Christianity, because the rest of Christianity doesn't seem to be influenced very much by the Jewish Christians who survive in the East for centuries. And they don't play a significant role in correcting ideas that change over time about how to think about salvation or who is God or who is Christ. And I think that's just a tragedy, just for the record, that Jewish Christians did not play the watchdog role that I really think they could have played in that time period. But understanding the Greco-Roman world helps us understand how this parting of the ways could occur, because if we just assume that the earliest Christians all operated from a Jewish worldview, then it's just a total mystery how they could develop over time into really a very changed view of who God is and who the Messiah is. So I think it's critical to understand development and the parting of the ways between Christianity and Judaism to know the Greco-Roman worldview.